Hello, and in today's video we are doing an FPL review of Game Week 4 and a preview and team selection for Game Week 5. Yes, that's right, it's Game Week 5, it's the first midweek fixtures of the season, and this man is giving me a right old headache. We'll get to that, and we'll get to looking at how our team got on last week, but make sure you smash a like on the video, get in the comment section. What are your transfers for this game week? It's a very fascinating match week, that is for sure. And let's see what transfers we make and what rank we're going to finish on by the time match week number 5 is over. But let's look at how we got on in match week 4. We made no transfers. We rolled the transfer. So previous week we brought in Reece James for the 1-pointer against Leeds. You hate to see it. And we also did a read-in just to make sure we could have James, Cancelo, Robbo, Trent, all in the same team. And it was a good game week, considering it was a quite tough game week for a lot of people. Andreas on the bench was a bit of a pain, though, so I rectified that this week by starting Andreas and hoping he'd deliver the goods. Of course he didn't, though, when he started, and 76 points, which was very, very good for this week. Very happy with that. Smashed the average points of 62. So I made no transfers this week. I just didn't feel like it was really needed. And ahead of a hectic game week 5 where it's the first midweek of the season, transfers are often quite hard in those kind of game weeks. And with a midweek game, you're feeling there's a risk of rotation. So I thought it makes sense. Get to game week 5, have 2 frees, and then I can bring in players that are prone to, or that are not prone to rotation. But Reece James has come along and got himself injured. However, at least we got, the most out of him whilst we could. We got a 7-pointer last week. Nice attacking return. The thing is with Reece James, he's one that I'm probably going to own longer on the season. Will I keep him now, though? That is the question, and that's the $1 million question we'll have to answer in a bit. But it's a really frustrating situation to be in, for sure. I'm very tempted to sell Reece James. Even Jamie Piggott, the man who won FPL last year, is thinking about it. And I like a transfer combination that I can do with selling Reece James. But of course, I could get him back in. Of course, he could only miss this Southampton game and be back for the weekend game. But, I can get him in later. And I've got my wild card at some point, so I could wild card him back in if I needed to. And that was a massive mistake. And, we don't know. He could play tonight. But the fact is, he's not been pictured in training. And it is worrying. I just don't think it's likely that he's travelled with the squad. If he has, and he's on the bench, does he come on when there's no point in risking him? They've got Azpilicueta who can play there. It doesn't seem logical. So I don't think people need to panic as much as they are right now and transfer him out necessarily. But for my team, it might be a better team-dependent thing. But regarding Game Week 4, as I say, 76 points was really nice. Green arrow was huge after that red arrow from Game Week 3. But let's start off with Robert Sanchez. I mean, this guy's been fabulous all season. A really good own since Game Week 1. And, a 6-pointer last against Newcastle. Another 8-pointer last week and another 8-pointer this week. He's been absolutely superb with those bonus points and those save points. Really, really good. And, Brighton just looked solid. And I had a feeling that as good as Leeds were in form, they would struggle because Brighton are looking at one of the best defences in the league right now. So Sanchez, great own for me, and very happy that he's delivering the goods. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 17-pointer. That is why you don't sell Trent ahead of a Bournemouth game. I mean, a lot of people are doing it with Liverpool's defence not keeping the clean sheets that we expect them to, and Trent not offering the attacking returns. But it's not like the signs weren't there. He was getting shots in the box. He was creating chances. It's just they weren't coming to anything. And at the end of the day, Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of those players who's proven himself time and time again. So why people started doubting him after 1 game week or 2 game weeks is beyond me. But the point is, this guy's here to stay. 17-pointer. Unbelievable. Joao Cancelo is also a player who sometimes put on the same pedestal as a Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example. But City defence has not started the season well. And I'm glad I hopped off the double City defence with Kyle Walker when I did. Because I got their clean sheets when they got them. And then I sold him as soon as Newcastle started, scoring all the goals against them. So Joao Cancelo is one of those players you think, keep him, he's going to come good, and he probably will. Admittedly, he's not offered as much of an attacking threat, but we got to remember how good he was in game week 2 with that 11-pointer. But ultimately, City defensively have been a bit shaky, so I'm still happy to persevere with him. It's just, if he doesn't get an attacking return soon, you might have to think, is he worth the 7 million? But certainly, last week was not the week for Joao Cancelo, whilst it was for Trent with his goal and an assist against Bournemouth. And what a goal it was, by the way. Joao Cancelo was very quiet in that Palace game, and that was just due to the nature of the match. Palace going 2-0 up, that's their bogey team, Man City, and they did look quite poor, but second half they turn it around, as City do. Just a shame to see no Joao Cancelo goal contributions. But we move. Robertson, this was the guy that I was going to probably sell this week, but then I thought, yeah, it's Bournemouth, you're going to probably just hold him for one more week, and let's see if he can impress. And, he's my differential. I started with him. Admittedly, it looks like Diaz now has won that battle of the third Liverpool spot, but, for the first 4 game weeks at least. But it's frustrating, really, because, I'd thought about with Robertson, is saving $1 million. It ended up not being, a better deal. But he did get an assist against Bournemouth, and the thing I have to decide now is it time to chop him? Because Tsimikas keeps coming in and keeps getting minutes, and that keeps putting my, thoughts in doubt. So I do feel Robertson is good as an asset most seasons, and I'd love to start him against Newcastle and play him, but, it's an interesting one with Reece James. If Reece James hadn't got injured, then I probably would be selling Robertson straight away. I'm a bit less reluctant now, because if I'm going to start Reece James and hope that if he does, play, then he starts, then I'll be benching someone else. And I don't really want to have to sell Robertson if I'm going to be, not going to have Reece James there. So it's a difficult one, but there's nothing wrong with Robertson. It's just people are saying, what if Tsimikas starts in the next couple of games? It's a possibility, but what if, he doesn't? There is a chance of that. So Robertson, as good as that assist was, and 9 points is nice. It would have been nice to get a nice double digit, but we'll take the 9 points. Reece James, as I say, good assist last week against Leicester. Good to see him return. He looked better against Leicester, I can't lie. Chelsea just looked better generally, and Raheem Sterling with his first 2 goals. I mean, Reece James is just one of those players. When he's good to own, he's fabulous. Last season, unfortunately, I didn't own him in the game weeks that he got those 18, 21 pointers. I got him in the game weeks that he got those 1 pointers, and I opted for Rudiger, and he didn't get those much explosive returns. But Reece James this season has been a bit up and down. I've unfortunately not owned him when he started the season well with those double 7-pointers, but he gets another one last week. At least I hopped onto that. It's just about now whether he's fit for this game and whether it's worth him having him going forward. Because you look at Chelsea's fixtures, they aren't perfect. The West Ham game, yes, West Ham have started poorly, but, West Ham, they are still on their day a decent side. Fulham are looking quite good this season, and then they got Liverpool. So I do see Reece James as being hard to resist as keeping because of his attacking threat and how explosive he can be. But at the end of the day, if Tuchel keeps playing him at right centre-back, I'm just like, well, maybe it's just not even worth it. It's one of those ones with Reece James. You just don't know until he starts playing whether it's going to be worth the call. But let's look at the midfield then from last week. Mohamed Salah, that is FPL folklore. I don't know how he's managed that in a 9-0 victory. It's just baffling. It is baffling, but that's, sometimes the way FPL works, it makes these stories. You saw it last season with Kai Havertz against Norwich City. Chelsea win 7-0. Kai Havertz was in form. They bring them into their team, and then he does 0 goal contributions, and Salah gets a hat-trick against Manchester United. Well, I was on the wrong end of that Salah hat-trick, because I remember that game week I brought in Harry Kane away to West Ham, or possibly it might have been at home, but it was against West Ham, and he blanked. This week, actually, Kane has West Ham, and I don't own Kane, so that will probably mean a Kane hat-trick. But the point is here, where Havertz failed and Salah succeeded, Salah failed and Haaland succeeded. So, yeah, it was a crazy game week for Mohamed Salah. How he has those chances that he misses, I do not know. And how he misses any kind of contribution with a 1.21 XG is crazy. It is crazy, but it's not going to happen every week. That 9 times out of 10, that will be a big haul for Salah because he looked involved. So it was just one of those weird freak game weeks, but he's still the Egyptian king. He's still the best FPL player probably of all time. Well, that's a big statement actually of the last 20 years. But I will still say that Kulusevski is a good own. I was quite happy to get his return against Forest. I was expecting a bit more with that fixture, but you know what? I'll take it. He looks quite good for Kulusevski. And the encouraging thing is that Son is getting subbed off before Kulusevski is, so it's not like he's as much of a rotation risk as I thought he could be come the start of the season. So yeah, Champions League is coming up for Spurs, so that's going to be a bit of a spanner in the works. But at the end of the day, Son's been so poor that I feel Kulusevski's space is quite safe. I'm not perfect with how safe it is, but it's quite safe. Richarlison's come on. He looked good against Nottingham Forest, got the assist for that second Kane goal. So of course Richarlison could take away Kulusevski's minutes, but at this point in time there are a couple of 8 mil midfielders that are looking good, looking at Luis Diaz and Kulusevski, and outside of that none of them are really setting the world alight. So I think it's probably one that I would should own and just hold with Kulusevski, but it's one of those ones, it's a nice price point to keep when I have to move him on. And West Ham this week is a better fixture than you would expect from the start of the season, because West Ham, they did win last week, but defensively they've been a bit suspect. So let's see how that goes. But happy to get his assist against Nottingham Forest. Then moving on, we had Martinelli blanking against Fulham. I mean, Martinelli was in such good form, it was going to be hard to keep him up. And, he's not going to score every week, but certainly he still looked good. And I don't think there's any kind of doubt that he's got that place over at Emil Smith Rowe at the moment. So, still happy with him. Arsenal's fixtures going forward are really nice. Andreas, it was his moment to be a hero and shine after last week benching Nico Williams against Everton, because I just thought the fixture looked like a clean sheet for Forest, and they conceded with like 3 minutes to go. And then Andreas on the bench getting that assist against Brentford. But then we start Andreas this week because you think surely with that fixture against Spurs for Nico, it just didn't make any sense. It was the right decision. Andreas did score more, but unfortunately didn't get a return. So it is one of those ones. I'm not expecting that much from Andreas, but I just kind of thought it's fine to have that defence. It's fully worth it to start one of Nico or Andreas. But then Erling Haaland, what a legend. I mean, never in my mind was captaincy an option just because of the fixtures. I thought Jesus against Fulham looked very appetising, but I went with Salah just because of, the fact he's getting that extra point for the goal. He's playing a Bournemouth team that were conceding goals at the time. And of course, the sacking of Scott Parker is going to be interesting for those Wolves owners of assets like Pedro Neto, like Hwang, like, Gonzalo Guedes. So, yeah, I don't know. With Man City, they are certainly giving us a bit of a shock this season with the way they're playing in their games, but they're doing enough. As I say, what I mean by that 2-0 at half-time against Palace, but Erling Haaland comes out and shows why he's the bee's knees, really. He's unbelievable. And what a hat-trick. What a player. Just great to own. And I'm so happy that I picked him from the start, really. He's got that 13-point haul. He's scored in every single, or returned, I should say, in every single game. So it's superb to own him, and I'm so happy. But this is now going to be the test, isn't it? This midweek match against Forest. Will he start against that Nottingham Forest team with Erling Haaland? He's certainly got enough fitness. Pep Guardiola probably doesn't care, though. If he wants to play Julian Alvarez, he'll go for it. It's just that Erling Haaland is not going to like that. And I just wonder whether we see Pep's comments of playing only 2 games in a week for Erling Haaland. We've taken it too literally. But we shall see, I suppose. Jesus, really frustrating against Fulham. You thought he'd do something. But glad I didn't captain him in the end. Ultimately, Salah did get more, even if he did blank. And at the end of the day, he's still so good to go forward. Because, as I say, with Martinelli, Arsenal's fixtures are still looking very nice. So, yeah, it's a frustrating one, but it's still a great game week. 76 points. Green arrow is what you love to see. An award benching, of course. Nico Williams with a 1-pointer. Reed again with the 2-pointer, and Archer just playing the 1 minute. So, very good game week. In terms of what that did for our game week history, if we just show you here, people, Green Arrow up to 306,443. So that's a nice rise there from a previous overall rank of 507,000. We're tallying up the Green Arrows, that's for sure. And it's a pretty decent game week rank when you consider how hard this game week was. With players like Salah, Blanking, and Jesus, and Martinelli, and Cancelo. So, very nice game week. And we move on to match week number 5. A little update before we do on the FPL Yellow Army mini league. So this is how it's looking. James is still in front with a nice tally of 294 points. That is a very good start for James. He's doing well. And another 80 points last week was impressive stuff. Odegaard keeps doing well for him. That's a very good call from James, and he's gone very similar with that defence. Just he's got Trippier in there, so very good start for James. And I've moved up to 7th, whereas at the bottom of the table, we can just have a little look who's doing the worst at the minute. It's currently Josh Watts. Yes, lads, he's only on 145 overall points. So it's a few issues in this team. I can't lie, with Zinchenko out injured, and obviously the big elephant in the room, no Trent Alexander-Arnold. But, sometimes these players like to be experimental. What I will say is he should probably have not taken a hit last week, especially when you think about the fact that, all right, you want to bring in Jesus, but Perisic, he did well last week. Will he play going forward? I just don't know. But he's got a lot of ground to kind of take up from last week's nightmare. So, fair enough. That's how this mini league is standing. Let's look ahead, though, to Game Week 5 and see what transfers I'm planning. So here it is, then, the Game Week 5 team selection. We've got Robert Sanchez at home against Fulham. Now, this is the kind of fixture I can see a clean sheet for Robert Sanchez, but I won't be disappointed if Fulham score, because Fulham have been superb this season. But hopefully, even if there is a goal conceded or two, then Sanchez is, very good at getting some saves. And if not, then he's going to do well, and he'll do well across these fixtures. So I'm happy to just be on him. He's been probably the standout 4.5 option, so it's been nice to have him from the start and reap the rewards. But Fulham on paper is still a good fixture, so really cannot complain with that. Trent Alexander-Arnold home against Newcastle. I do feel Trent is just one to just forget about having to deal with, because he's just so good. He's so attacking, as he showed last week. And that Newcastle team, they are looking better defensively, but if they've got loads of players out injured, as is rumoured with Callum Wilson, Alan St-Maximin, Bruno Guimaraes, then who knows? That could be a very good game for Liverpool. And Trent Alexander-Arnold on set pieces, he just looks like a very good option for this week, and might even be a captaincy shout. But I'm just not quite sure whether they'll be as bad as Bournemouth were last week, Newcastle. I think they'll be a bit more defensively solid. Talking of defending, and captaincy defenders, maybe this is the week for Joao Cancelo, but the problem is he's not filled me with massive confidence over the last 2 game weeks. As good as he could be against the Nottingham Forest team that have been quite good, but I feel City are surely going to get a clean sheet in that game. Maybe a Forest goal, but hopefully Cancelo offers more attacking threat here. Ultimately, though, it's a great fixture, and I just want to see a bit more from Cancelo from an attacking point of view. But he's certainly still one of those ones to be patient with. Andrew Robertson. So this is our first kind of conundrum of the game week. Now, good 9-pointer last week. However, I am worried about Tsimikas with Liverpool's game in the Champions League coming up. I'm just thinking, how much is Robertson going to start these games? Because Tsimikas keeps coming on for him, and it's a bit of a pain, really. But Newcastle is not the easiest fixture for Liverpool, so it's a game that I could easily sell Robertson. But, at the same time, Robertson is still a great asset to own. It's just, is he good value at 6.9 million? It doesn't seem like the perfect player to have for that price. But Newcastle are certainly a good enough team. One thing I will say is that, against Man City, it was a very, very kind of interesting game for Newcastle, and I don't know. maybe even I might have to take out Reece James, but what I'm definitely thinking is that Robertson, in an ideal world, stays in my team. And you look at that Newcastle defence. Yes, they have been better, but Robertson is still going to go forward, and he's still going to get chances. And I just like it. It's a differential. He's only 8.9% owned, or something like 7.9 even. So if he pops and he explodes, which he hasn't really done this season, then I could really shoot up the ranks. But it's just a lot of money for a Liverpool defence that have not looked that solid. And, take away that Bournemouth game that was never really going to be much threat for their defence. They have been quite leaky at the back. And I just wonder, against this Newcastle team, yes, they've got Wilson out. Yes, maybe they've got some Maximan out. Isaac, will he come in time to play? Probably not. So it's very tempting to get those kind of 2 clean sheets locked in. But the thing is that if I take out Robertson, that gives me so many more options. Reece James is the problem. He is the problem right now in my team because we just don't know if he's going to be fit for this game against the Saints at St Mary's. But I don't know. It's one of those things. I probably would have sold him by game week 8 anyway. But then he'll probably come back on a wild card around about this time. So it's one of those ones. Don't hesitate with Reece James to take him out, but also don't hesitate to put him back in. So does it really matter what I do this game week? Probably not. I could bench him, but I think if I'm going to keep him and not transfer him out, then I probably will start him. And if he doesn't play, I don't think he's going to come on for a 1-pointer. I would be very surprised. But in that scenario, of course, I could just bench him and play Andreas, but I don't think it's worth it. I think if Reece James isn't going to play, I don't think he's going to come on. So therefore, I'm strongly considering selling Reece James. As good as that Southampton fixture is, a Chelsea team that have been a bit up and down, and admittedly that centre-back spot for Reece James is a frustrating thing to see, but at the same time, I'm thinking, he could always come up with a goal and an assist. He's that constant threat, and he's a player that if he's fit and firing, I just don't like to not go without. So to go without. So he's going to stay in for now, I think, and maybe I'll think about it. Salah captaincy for me, it's gone between Salah and Haaland all week. I've not really considered Jesus, even though the fixture against Villa is very tempting with that Villa team out of form. I don't think we've got to the point where we can really consider Martinelli yet, but Jesus is very interesting. They play on Wednesday night against this Villa team that really have been struggling. And with Erling Haaland, you just don't know. Is he going to start? Probably is, but there's just a bit of uncertainty there. You know Jesus is going to start, and you don't quite know if Salah is gonna bounce back. I mean, I think he is, but Newcastle are a much better defence than Villa, so that's why I was thinking Jesus is a good option. But he gets the extra point for a goal. I said this last week, but Salah is still just, in my eyes, one of the best captaincy for most game weeks, even if he has one game where by some miracle he's not scored. It doesn't certainly make him a bad option. Sometimes players have those kind of days, and they just have to kind of bounce back from it. And Liverpool are a great team from bouncing back. So I honestly feel that Salah's probably 80-20 for the captaincy right now. Martinelli, yeah, good fixture. I'm hoping for something from Gabriel here because, that Villa team is really in dire straits, and Arsenal are looking very good, and especially at home. They're scoring goals. You look at their 2 home games so far this season. 6 goals they've already got. So Martinelli hopefully is involved. Andreas is the bit of an issue, really, because if it wasn't for Reece James' injury, I would probably be comfortable with starting Andreas. But now that Reece James is a doubt, I'd really want Andreas as my first bench option, because I don't really want Reed to be coming on as my replacement for Reece James. So it might have to be a bit of a shuffling round here, but Andreas, I still feel is a good option. Even though Brighton are one of the best defences, Andreas looks really lively. He could have got more against Arsenal last week, and that's why I thought he's a good enough player to start sometimes if Nico Williams has a dodgy fixture, which he does this game week. I mean, I said at the start of the season, Nico Williams is the next Lundstrom, which inevitably means, just like Stuart Dallas did in game week 32 or 33 of the 2021 season, that
Dallas scored against Man City at the Etihad, that would probably mean Nico does the same. I mean, he looked quite good, I thought, actually, against Spurs. He had that chance that just went wide, so he's getting in the box, he's getting involved, but I'm just not quite that bold to play him against Man City. But yeah, certainly I think Andreas could do well, just as he did against Brentford. Kulusevski, for me, I'm just too reluctant to sell him. He's still a very nice differential, only 15% or so owned. I thought it would be much more than that after game 1, but he did get that assist last week, so he is returning. It's just, will he start? I think he will. And if he doesn't, then I've always got players off the bench. This is the problem, though. If Reece James is out, and if someone like a Robertson gets benched for Tsimikas, and a Kulusevski gets benched, then I've got a lot of issues, because that bench is not really ready for all those missing out. So I do worry about that a little bit, but that's just natural, because we started the season with a weak bench. We knew that was going to be the case. And the chances of all those players not playing is unlikely. But I still feel Kulusevski's a good option if he starts against West Ham. West Ham defensively have been a bit dodgy. Against Villa they were better, but I still feel that there's a bit of a soft centre there. So that they'll probably be the favourite Spurs in that game. As sloppy as they were, I thought, against Forest, they got the victory at the end of the day. And that's all that's important. So hopefully Kulusevski can do a little bit more against this West Ham team. Erling Haaland, very tempting. I'm very, very tempted to do the captaincy, as I'm sure a lot of people are. But I am very kind of thinking, why is Pep getting in my head? Why is he living there rent free? Don't fall to this Pep, confusion, because so many times he will drop a player that's just scored and you're baffled, or at the same time he will say a player is not going to play, or say a player it might not play, and then it plays him anyway. So the thing is with Pep, he murks you on two fronts. He confuses you and makes you think, oh, he's gonna play a player who's doing well, and Pep's got the power to just bench them anyway. But he also confuses you because he says one thing and he probably means the other, because he's so cryptic. I mean, he had a press conference today, and regarding Erling Haaland playing this game, he said, "You will see tomorrow." Well, that's not helpful, Pep, because the deadline's this evening at 6 o'clock. So yeah, don't give me that absolute waffle. Look, at the end of the day, I get that Haaland could do another great game week against Forest, but I just prefer Salah this week. It's as simple as that. I think Liverpool will want to carry on the form they showed against Bournemouth. Salah will want to make up for last week, and extra point for the goal. Haaland can definitely score, that's for sure, even in 20 minutes off the bench, but I think Salah's nailed, so I like to captain people who are nailed. And Haaland probably is nailed, I know, but, if Pep had said 100% Haaland will play, then he's not even a doubt. But it's probably one of those ones, I'll switch to Haaland last second, and then I'll probably regret it. But anyway, Jesus. Villa at home, good fixture. I can't really complain with that. That is a kind of game that Jesus probably should thrive in. And Villa just defensively have looked all over the shop, so I can't really go wrong with that. So these players are all good for this game week, and therefore it's leaving me a lot of problems with transfer decisions, because I've got 2 for this week because I rolled last week. But maybe I only do 1 transfer. The problem I've got is I can't do that because I've not got any money in the bank, so I'd have to do a downgrade, and I don't really want to take out Kulusevski. I don't really want to take out Robertson, and all the rest of the players other than Reece James are pretty much locks at this point because they're doing so well. So I'm in such a good position. I've chosen such a good team that I just don't really have any useful transfers to make. So let's talk about some transfers options then. Let's say Reece James is out. He might not be out for that long period, but I could always get him back in. If I wildcard, I can get him back in. So let's say I sold Reece James for this week and I got in Saliba from Arsenal. Then I could get in a nice juicy midfielder that goes by the name of Pascal Gross. And that way I still keep Robertson, which is very, very tempting. Because at this point, I'm looking at a situation where it's likely I'll have to sacrifice one of Robertson or Kulusevski if I want to upgrade one of my bench players, basically. Because I don't really want to have a bench of Nico Williams and Reed. So Reed probably has to go, blood. Like, I like your services. I appreciate what you've done for my team last week. He came in for the bench and basically was just an enabler to get me Reece James. And he did get 7-pointer, so that was quite nice. But at the end of the day, Reed is just not a player that I was looking to hold long. It was just to enable a transfer. So he can easily go. But it's just whether Reece James can easily go. Because I'm very tempted to sell Robertson. I just don't know if the Liverpool defence is worth investing in anymore. With only, without having just Trent. I think, you can just have Trent and that is enough at the minute. But if Robertson then comes in and scores that haul against Newcastle, I'm going to really regret it. And on paper, that's a good fixture. But you'd say the same thing for Reece James. On paper, Southampton is a good fixture if he's fit. But we just do not know that. I could easily go to Reece James by chopping off Joao Cancelo, but I feel like Cancelo is going to come good with these fixtures. I don't think, despite his last couple of game weeks, that's been the same problem for most City defenders, and we still think City are one of the best defenders in the league, even if they have this slight blip in terms of their not keeping clean sheets. They're still winning games, and Cancelo still goes forward and still runs with that ball and carries it into the final kind of parts of the pitch. So he's not like he's nowhere near attacking, but he's just not quite delivering yet. But doesn't mean that's a reason to get cold feet on him this soon. So that is a really nice option to go for if Reece James was confirmed out for a nice long period. The reason I'm reluctant to sell Reece James is because we just haven't got any kind of info that's concrete on him. We don't know if he's actually out, and we don't know if he is out, how long it will be. As I say, Reece James' fixtures, will I want him back very soon? Well, if I wildcard around game week 9 or 10, probably will with those fixtures. But before that, Fulham, yeah, it's a nice fixture. West Ham's a nice fixture. These are all nice fixtures, but you could also interpret them as not the best fixture. If he misses Southampton, West Ham and Fulham, they're both decent sized on their day, and then there's Liverpool. So I don't know if Reece James is one of those players that I just should bench this week or start this week, and if not, Andreas will come in. But that's not how my team is structured this week. It's not as easy as Andreas will come in, because I'm starting Andreas anyway with Reed and Nico Williams on the bench. So I can't afford to just keep James and think, oh yeah, it's fine, Andreas will come in, because he's starting right now. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately, for this team. So Reece James, it's just a roller coaster, the highs and the lows, and I just don't know if he is going. We might have to just wait to sell. I mean, the thing is, if you sell James tonight, it gives you probably enough to buy him at the weekend. I mean, he might get a price drop. But I just don't know. Am I going to really want to axe Cancelo? Let's imagine Robertson got injured, then he could easily come in for Robertson game week 6. But if he's only missing one game, it's kind of like, why am I even bothering selling him? Because we've got no news that's concrete. So this was my other scenario, which was getting in not Pascal Gross, but Rodrigo, because I'm really liking the look of Rodrigo, and I'm not surprised he blanked last week against Sanchez, just too solid. But I can get in Saliba, and I can have this team, which allows me to then have Andreas first sub, because it improves my midfield with Rodrigo there. It's just the regret I might feel about selling Robertson ahead of Newcastle. I mean, after Newcastle, Liverpool have got nice fixtures, Everton and Wolves. So those are fixtures that I'd like to have Robertson in an ideal world. But right now, with the transfer and the injuries that are going on, and the players that I sometimes want to just go for, it's not an ideal world. So you just got to take the rough with the smooth. And that is a transfer strategy that I'm very liking. I could have done Gross as well instead of Rodrigo. But the thing I've got about Pascal Gross is, as good as he is he going to keep it going? I mean, this is not often that this happens. But from an attacking point of view, I prefer Leeds fixtures. I mean, Fulham, yeah, that's not a bad fixture. Bournemouth is nice. Palace won't be completely easy. I know that City scored 4 against them, but that was just Man City. You look at Leeds fixtures from an attacking point of view, they've got Forest, who are still adapting. They've got an Everton team that are in disarray. Brentford, okay, not the easiest, to be fair, but, Leeds won up against Brentford last season, so I can see this being a really difficult decision, because I've got a lot of midfielders in that price bracket that look a tempting option, like Eze at Palace. If he does well, I could get Odegaard, but do I really want to triple up on the Arsenal attack? Harrison as well is an alternative to Rodrigo, but the problem with that is I can't have Harrison and Robertson. So Robertson still goes, but I just have a bit more money to play around with for next week. So that is an option as well, because the thing I like about Harrison is he's going under the radar. He's still 4.3% owned. Yes, Rodrigo might be the better pick, but Harrison's still getting involved as much as, well, not quite to the extent, but closely as much as Rodrigo is. So 26 points is certainly not to be sniffed at. And the fact is, yes, he's, the same price when you think he started at 6 million. So I've kind of not got the value there, but I just worry about having that bench option as Reed. I just don't like it. So that is an option I'm really toying with. I just don't think it's worth selling Reece James until we get concrete news, which I don't think we'll get probably until very, very soon to, the deadline. I don't know. I think Reece James is out. I can't lie. I think the signs are not looking good, and I think Reece James is surely out. So therefore, is he going to be out for longer? We just don't know that. But I'm really liking the transfer strategy that sells Reece James, because I can keep Robertson and see how he does against Newcastle. Reece James, man, you've given me a real... I don't know. I think James apparently not at training, and the thing is, if James is out as a precaution, it's safe to take an assumption he will miss just one game week. And if he only misses the Southampton game, then surely he's a keep. Because he's just so good. Will he be a rotation risk in the Champions League? That's the other thing we've got to think about. I don't think he will. I think it's different for people with one free transfer. If they have one free transfer, then you definitely keep. But if you have two, it's tempting to sell because there's just so much uncertainty, and like selling Robertson in this transfer plan is just not that appealing to me. But I do like those moves. I do. I think Harrison is really going under the radar, and I don't know why really, because he's done really well. I mean, he's not one of those players that always scores. He's ticking along nicely, not as much as the explosiveness of Rodrigo, but I think it's very tempting with Harrison being at differential. I mean, one thing's for sure, you shouldn't get differentials for differential's sake. I've had that problem in the past, so I'm very tempted to just take this back to Rodrigo and just stick with that and bin off Robertson. I mean, look, you've got to think about value for money, right? Value for money wise, Rodrigo is looking brilliant because he's outperforming some of the 8 million midfielders. Value for money wise, Robertson is not looking brilliant. Value for money wise, Saliba is looking brilliant. So based on value, I think that these are the best transfers I make. But based on predicted points for Game Week 5, I could be in trouble. Because if I have James out and Andreas is starting, that's not the strongest when I could have had Robertson and someone else for Reece James. It's a really tricky one. Because then if I had Robertson and someone else, then I could make sure that someone else wasn't injured, i.e. like Reece James is, and make sure that Andreas doesn't have to come off my bench. So that's a tricky decision to make. I really like Robertson. And I know people will say, oh, well, he's going to get benched anyway for Simicast, but he's differential. He's still a good player on his day. And yes, I can do this move with a 4 million defender, but do I really want to be bringing in Emerson? Not sure about that, because then I'd have to start Emerson and bench Andreas, Williams and Archer. So I don't really want to start Emerson against Spurs, thank you very much. Especially when he only came on for 45 minutes. So yeah, I'm not feeling that, to be honest. So what am I getting to here? I'm going around the houses. The point I'm getting to is, Reece James, is it a keep, a bench, or a sell? I think it is a keep. Because let's imagine Reece James is out and he's confirmed back for this game week. That would be so annoying to flip flap between selling Reece James and buying Reece. I mean, I only brought in this guy in game week 3, so then I'm already selling him. Nah, man, just don't do it. And if Chelsea had come out and said Reece James is definitely ruled out officially, but we're getting it off some dodgy source that we don't know is a trusted, you know, if it was like a trusted journalist, then maybe I would do it. I think James is going to be fit for the weekend. That's the thing that makes it difficult. The problem I've got is that I've not got a good enough bench to really keep him. So I mean, it's not like we need a lot of transfers right now. So I'm gonna sell James. Forget it, Reece James. You're not playing against Southampton. I'm not convinced. There's no chance. Okay, there's just no chance. So I'm locked in. Saliba and Gross are the players. Although the problem with that is that it doesn't let me get Rodrigo, and I like Rodrigo over Gross with the fixtures for Brighton. I'm just not convinced that Gross can carry it on. The thing is, you got Rodrigo on penalties as well. Oh, this is a difficult one. I can't lie. This is really scrambled me up. I need to be decisive, but it's hard to be decisive when we don't know about Reece James. I think he plays game week 6. That's the problem. I could do a straight swap from Cucurella, but nah. I just think that gives me more options because I can have Saliba starting and have a bench of Andreas, Nico and Archer. So if... Actually, no, hang on. No, that if I do that, I won't need Andreas to come in, so that's fine. It's about how good as an option we think Andreas is at home to Brighton. If we think he's returning, I mean, we don't know, he's a 4.5, but if we think he's a good option, then we could just go with what we had and have Andreas starting. But I don't really like to rely on that because... No, actually, in fact, if we have Andreas starting, we're probably going to be keeping James, and therefore we're running the risk of having Nico or Reed coming off the bench. So, yeah, I'm not liking that. I can't lie. James. I just don't think James is playing this week. And then everyone will say on Twitter, like, they'll be like, oh, there's your team. Why are you starting Reece James? He's not playing this week. Yeah, I know. But at the same time... I think it's easier to sell Reece James if you've got a weaker bench. So I'm just going to make those moves. I just think, Reece James, you're a troll, and I keep Robertson. Long term, though, who's better, Liverpool defence or Chelsea defence? Probably Chelsea defence. So that's why I'm a bit like, ugh. Yeah. You know what? It's Maverick. I don't like it. I prefer Rodrigo. Rodrigo's definitely going to outscore Gross now, and I just know it. But for the sake of my team, for the sake of my sanity, having to worry about Reece, I mean, I'm going to still worry when he hauls against Southampton. But oh man, if you have a weak bench, I think you surely sell Reece James. It's just really hard to know. I mean, I suppose if you're selling Reece James, well, you don't need your weak bench, so that kind of contradicts itself a little bit. I'd like someone to confirm Reece James, because if he's confirmed for 1, then... I mean, I guess I could get in someone more expensive, so I could get in like a... No, that's not going to work. It's about Robertson or James. It's a battle between the two fullbacks. Do we go England or Scotland? I mean, tough. It's funny with FPL, isn't it? When you need your bench, it's trash, and when you don't need it, it's like world class. And all of a sudden, I need it. I'm gonna just check people what people are doing about Reece James, and I know it's cowardly, but I'm gonna follow the crowd.
because I'm just like, I'm so skeptical. I think James is back, so I don't think we sell. I think we just do what we said before and we sell Robertson. I don't care, alright? Yes, it's an injured Newcastle team, but I don't care. This allows me as well to get Rodrigo, who I really want. I can't lie. I prefer him to Gross. Gross, for me, is Gross. And let's imagine that we look at the first 4 game weeks as a good indicator. That indicator tells us that Liverpool defence, as good as it is with Trent, is not as good on the other side with Tsimikas coming in and Liverpool do concede goals. It's inevitable. And I'd rather not have a double defence. I don't want to be stacked up in loads of teams. So therefore, we're locked in. I can't believe it. I've just sold Robertson ahead of Newcastle. But you know what? It's fully worth it. It's risky, I know, but it allows me to have a player to come on if James is out. Which he most certainly will be. But, I don't mind it. I like that team. It's locked in. Saliba. So let's talk about my transfers in, though. So just to kind of confirm to you that free transfer. So no hits taken. 2 free transfers have been done. Rodrigo and Reed for Saliba and Robertson. Sorry, Robertson, mate. You were my differential that was supposed to pay off. But sometimes differential for differential's sake is just not going to get FPL points. And as much as people say, oh, well, you just bring in a highly owned Rodrigo and a highly owned Saliba. Well, yeah, okay. But points are points at the end of the day. And we can wildcard out of this template and then it will get more exciting. But Reece James, you are honestly the most frustrating player ever, but I'm sticking with you. Let's see if he starts. Imagine if he gets a haul and everyone will be crying for selling him. And I think he plays. I think he plays against West Ham at the weekend. Honestly, I do. So he's not going anywhere. Reece James, I've worked it out now. There it is. The mastermind move for game week number 5. There it is. So yeah, Reece James has come in for Robertson. I mean, there's not much between... Oh, sorry, I already had Reece James. Saliba has come in for Robertson, I should say. I mean, even Julian Laurent on the FPL pod was talking about it, how Liverpool defence is just not worth it. Robertson's not as attacking as he should be. And I've just lost patience with Andrew Robertson. 9 points in a 9-0. I mean, you'd expect more, really, from attacking fullback. I don't think he's even that attacking at this point. So, yeah, it's got to be done. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut, and that was my gut right there. And Rodrigo is my gut. Against his Everton team, he's going to do well. Come on. He's back in the business. He's one of the top scorers in the league. Yes, he had Brighton, but that's a very difficult fixture. These fixtures, though, absolutely delicious. Thanks for watching my FPL preview for game week number 5. I know it's been a bit longer, this one, but, I had that Reece James dilemma, so it is what it is. We've brought in Saliba, not really expecting any goals. If we get anything, it's a bonus, but you just expect that home clean sheet against a very poor Villa team right now. Let's see if that's how it pans out. But I just think 3 Arsenal players is the way to go. They're looking so good. And defensively, they look quite solid. Even if they didn't keep a clean sheet against last week, I think they will this week. So those are my moves. I like it. 2 free transfers. Saliba in for Robertson and Rodrigo in for Reed. I feel much better now that my bench is more secure. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.